All right. Check, 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 check. All righty, folks. Looks like a microphone's going good. All right. So I'm going to be on here about an hour. It's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're about a little over an hour away from kickoff for the Philadelphia Eagles versus Green Bay Packers Week 10 Monday Night Football at the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. And I'm here rocking it's a Philly thing t-shirt, and I'm ready to go, man. But we got about an hour or so. Let's take some time to sit back, talk about it. Got a poll up in the chat asking who's gonna win tonight's game, Eagles or Packers. Pretty simple poll. You guys can vote, and keep that bad boy going throughout the stream. And I'm going to be on here about an hour, so I'll take my time, talk about the game a little bit. It's been a week since we had the Eagles play. Last week, we didn't have an Eagles game, so we had a bye week. And that was the perfect time for Howie Roseman to make some moves. It was perfect that we got that bye week before the trade deadline, because then, ultimately, we had some time to sit back. We had some time to get everything together, make a few moves, and now we're coming back fresh with some new acquisitions. We got Jair Alexander from the Ravens. We got him. I don't think he's going to be playing tonight, but we did acquire him. Hold on 1 second. We also acquired Michael Carter III from the Jets, sending John Mechie. Excuse me. That's what I was waiting on there. But yeah, as I say, we did that. And then last but not least, before the trade deadline, we got Jalen Phillips from the Miami Dolphins to help with that linebacker room. We got a new look on defense. Looks like we're going to see Jalen Phillips tonight. Probably see Michael Carter. I don't know about Jair Alexander. I doubt we're going to see him play tonight, but we'll at least get two of those three guys in there. But most importantly, though, you need the most is we need another guy for a secondary. We were trying to ride out with Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo, altering the corner 2 spot. That wasn't working. So obviously the Eagles recognize it, like, look, we got to get something else there because what we have currently ain't working. We need to try something else. Just moving some dust from my desk real quick. As we can tell, I'm going to keep talking to you guys, though, of course. But yeah, we got that. We got Jalen Phillips in the mix. He could help out. Most likely, Jalen Phillips is going to be the most likely to make an impact tonight out of the guys because Phillips, remember, was in Miami. Vic Fangio was the defensive coordinator there before he came to Philly. So Jalen Phillips is a little bit familiar with Vic Fangio. He's familiar with his system. So he's had some time playing with him. So it should be the easiest for him to adjust to Fangio's style as defensive coordinator. And we should see some Jalen Phillips tonight. And of course, we also got Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Jalix Hunt starting to have a breakout, Jahad Campbell, of course, Jalen Carter playing. We're pretty much healthy on the defensive side of the ball, so that should give us an edge against the Packers in this one. And then on the offensive side, we're mostly healthy as well. We got most of our offensive line should be good, especially after a week off. Then you get, of course, Jalen Hurts. Of course, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert and company. Even Jahan Dotson, who might still get in from time to time. You got Star Wars 99 comment, let's go Eagles. And we got a vote on the poll already. I saw it in real time. That's right. I'm going to keep this thing going throughout this entire stream. We're going to tell you, we're going to be here about an hour. And like I said, we got most of our defense and our offense healthy. So that's promising in itself right there. Now, going into this matchup, we're the obvious favorites, of course. Let's face it. We're the Super Bowl champs. We've had the Packers number recently. We beat them twice last year, the regular season and in the wild card round. And also the Packers are fresh off an embarrassing loss to the Carolina Panthers, which in turn looks more ugly an hour away from kickoff because the Panthers lost to the Saints yesterday. And also, Alexander won't play, which I had a feeling he wasn't going to play anyway. So that doesn't surprise me. It's ironic because I was thinking earlier, this was obviously before we get to tonight, I was thinking earlier in the week, okay, maybe there's an outside chance Alexander could play because it's against the Packers, but obviously that's not going to happen. So, hey, but I'm not worried about that because we still got plenty of guys on this defense. We're a loaded bunch. And we know usually with the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love, his season usually starts late around winter time. Usually Jordan Love's a winter player. He'll usually save his best for then and try to help the Packers make a push for the playoffs. And then you got, of course, Jalen Phillips, right. It was funny. We were talking about this yesterday. I was hosting the Sunday morning show on the Hardcore Sports Network where you had Big C, who's a Dolphins fan, talked about it. He said Jalen Phillips is one of the best blitzers. Just his Achilles heel is finishing the plays, but he knows how to get pressure, and that can really help us out here, especially could help us out on the defensive side tonight. Get some pressure on Jordan Love, especially going against the Packers team, whose offense hasn't been the most consistent throughout the season. Their strong suit is their defense. We see how on their two losses, both to the Panthers and the Browns, they played out eerily similar. You got the defense played pretty solid, but their offense couldn't get anything going. And that's where Jordan Love's deficiencies and shortcomings as a quarterback come into play. Even last week against the Panthers, he didn't have any touchdowns. He had an interception where it just looked like he pulled a Brett Favre and just slung the ball up into the middle of nowhere. Again, plus the Packers' run defense was a little shaky last week against what's his face, Rico Dowdle. So the Packers are coming fresh off that embarrassing performance. Now we're going against them in Green Bay. Yes, it's going to be a lot colder in Green Bay, and this is more suited for Green Bay strengths, which maybe it might take a minute or two, take a few drives to get used to the weather. That's certainly a possibility, but you're still talking about a full four-quarter game. We know the Eagles can find ways to win on the road in Lambeau Field. I mean, they've done it before on Monday Night Football. This happened. I know this is years ago, but back with McNabb, going with Andy Reid, going against Favre, they won that game. So it can happen. History's proven it. And plus, we beat them in Green Bay in 2013 with Nick Foles and LaShawn McCoy. And then Little G Griffith prediction: Eagles 38, Packers 10. And it's interesting you bring that up. I've been thinking about it because let's look at the Eagles' offense, though, evaluating their performance so far throughout the season. It seems like what's happening, though, with them, like particularly is the last couple games before the bye week, they're starting to show signs of improvement, particularly. I think what we've really happened this year is with Jalen Hurts is because he's now becoming more of a passer than a runner, it took a few weeks to get used to it. You're kind of taking Jalen Hurts a little bit away from his usual style. There was kind of that growing pain those couple weeks in the middle where Hurts was adjusting more to being a passer than a runner. It's kind of similar to what happened with Kansas City back in 2021. I mean, they tried to change their approach after they got obliterated in that Super Bowl by Tampa Bay. They kind of struggled a little bit early in the season, but as the season went on, Kansas City started to catch fire. They started winning games. And ultimately, they won out in the division, got the number 2 seed that year. So it might be something similar here where it just took a few weeks for Hurts to get used to being more of a passer than more of a mover. I mean, we still see that Hurts can make plays with his feet in the rematch against the Giants. Like, particularly, we saw one advantage the Eagles have actually is when the teams bring pressure from the side. We saw that one play against the Giants where the Giants tried to bring pressure from the left and the right. They left a hole in the middle for Hurts. Hurts, being that mobile quarterback, knew to take off, and he got a first down out of it. So we know Hurts can still make plays with his feet, and he's been impressive these past couple games following the first Giants debacle against the Vikings, then the rematch against the Giants for the bye. He had numerous games with multiple touchdown passes. He's showing that he can still throw the deep ball efficiently. So we've seen Jalen Hurts has had his best passing season. He had, 15 touchdowns to 1 pick. Yeah, actually it is 15 TDs to 1 pick. So we got a lot going for us going into this game where everything looks great on paper. This is a winnable game. But also, we still got to go out there on the field, make it happen. And then that's where in a few minutes I'm going to get into the key matchups the key player and team matchups and talk about them a little bit. But with this Packers team, here we go. Now we get to see Micah Parsons again. Because we played him in Dallas. We know what he can do. Now here he comes. We're playing him again. This time he's in a different uniform, in a Packers uniform. And that Green Bay Packers defense has been one of their strong suits so far throughout the season. Especially with Parsons coming. He was named October NFC Defensive Player of the Month. So he's just continuing right where he left off with a new team, actually with a better all-around defense. So we know Green Bay's defense can ball out and they're good. But ironically, it was our division rival, the Dallas Cowboys, that to some extent laid the blueprint on how to score points against them. We saw from that game that this Packers team is prone to giving up points. And maybe there's, and especially last week, we saw one of their vulnerabilities was stopping the run against the Carolina Panthers. Rico Dowdle had himself an excellent game. And based off what the Eagles did before the bye week going against the Giants, Saquon Barkley had his best game of the season. Jalen Hurts, while being efficient in the passing game, still made a few good plays with his legs as well. And plus, not to mention, Tank Bigsby off 9 carries got over 100 yards. So we know this team can run the ball. But I'm not expecting the same type of rushing performance we had where we got nearly 300 yards on the ground like we did against the Giants. The Packers are a much better defense. I would love if the Eagles could do that again for the second straight game. But realistically, look, we got to face it. The Packers are a much better defense than the New York Giants. Even though I'd love to see it happen, I don't see it happening realistically. But not saying that we can't make plays. Of course we can. But we got to remember, though, we're going against a much tougher defense against the Packers. So with that being said, now would be the perfect time to talk about some of the key matchups that's going to go on with this game. We'll start with our offense versus their defense first. Of course, you're going to have some of the key matchups that I think comes to mind. Of course, Saquon Barkley versus the Packers front seven. Now, that's going to be, the thing is that's a little bit concerning is Saquon this year, he hasn't been the strongest. But on the flip side, though, the Green Bay Packers, like we saw against the Panthers, their run game is not exactly the most dynamic not exactly their strong point in their defense. We saw Rico Dowdle had himself a really good game. Maybe, you figured if they could do it in Carolina, I'm pretty sure on paper, look, this is the offensive line we got. You still got Lane Johnson being there. Look, I'm pretty sure we can get the job done on the ground against the Packers. Just a matter of actually making it happen. But it would certainly help to continue to exploit some of the weaknesses of the Packers' run defense. Obviously not expecting Saquon to have the same game he had against the Giants, but if he can even have half of the performance he had against the Giants, that could help us out win this game. If Tank Bigsby gets more involved, especially now that we actually seen him in the offense, we know he fits with this team. If he could get in maybe 6-7 carries and maybe even get 50 yards or so, that would help out too. So even if we just have a solid game on the ground with our 2 running backs, that would help out against this team. And then, of course, because we still got A.J. Brown, who it took a few weeks to get him going, but once he started going in the offense, especially the last 2 games, he was dynamic the last 2 games for the bye week in week 7 and week 8. So I'm expecting A.J. Brown to make a return. And plus, here's a big matchup in our favor. Jair Alexander is going to be out. So can Keyshawn Nixon actually contain A.J. Brown? Honestly, I think I'm confident about that matchup as an Eagles fan from A.J. Brown's perspective. You're talking about a guy like Keyshawn Nixon who has no proven track record of being a top corner now. He's going to be taking on A.J. Brown, who's actually come to form these past couple weeks, who's balling out like a number 1 receiver. I don't like that matchup. And not to mention, let's not forget, it ain't just A.J. Brown they got to worry about in the passing game. Devontae Smith, too. Devontae Smith is he's easily the best number 2 option in the NFL this season. Easily the best number 2 receiver this season. In some games, he's even been a really good number 1 in some cases. So I'm confident about the matchup there. The Eagles' run game, we should be able to take care, getting back to that to a second. We should be able to take care of business there on the ground. But considering we haven't had the strongest start to the season, I still want to see us get it done. I mean, and we did get it done, to be fair, before the bye. We took care of business against the Giants. But I want to see that momentum continue and carry over to this game. And that would be excellent if we did, especially against the Packers, who have their vulnerabilities, like Rico Dowdle exposed with an excellent performance in Week 9. And then you got the other key matchup. This is the most concerning one. Lane Johnson versus Micah Parsons. Now, if there's anybody that you can keep Micah Parsons in check, that has a track record, going back these last couple seasons, we played the Dallas Cowboys. If there's one person who can keep him in check, it's Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson's had a pretty good track record of being able to minimize his efficiency when we play him head-to-head. And we know Lane Johnson is all around one of the best offensive tackles not in the NFL today and even history, too. Lane Johnson, I see, is a Hall of Famer. Not necessarily a first-ballot Hall of Famer, but one day down the line, this dude's a Hall of Famer. Best piece of that offensive line over the past decade, for sure. You got him going against Micah Parsons. I like the odds of minimizing his effectiveness. Now, we know from experience, Lane Johnson knows how to play against Parsons. He's had plenty of experience against him from his time with the Cowboys, going against them twice a year. Yeah, Parsons knows Johnson knows what to expect from Parsons. He knows his in and outs and knows how to contain him. So, yeah, that's obviously their biggest concern. But also as well, like I said, we know Parsons, we scouted. But at the flip side, Parsons knows this Eagles offense really well. On the flip side, that could be a potential morale advantage there for the Packers, because they're going to be looking to Parsons for advice on how to play the Eagles offense because he knows them. And so that could be a two-way street, but that was one of the key matchups. That's one of the big concern-wing ones. And let's see, those are the main offense, kind of like a rough overview of the main ones on offense. And then the biggest matchup for us is our pass rush going against Jordan Love. Now, Jordan Love, when you get some pressure on Jordan Love, usually he tends to fold. We've seen this consistently throughout his career. But the biggest concern, though, actually isn't necessarily Jordan Love, because I'll get to what it is in a second. Jordan Love, if you can get some pressure on him, he's prone to make mistakes. He has a tendency for making bad throws. We've seen it consistently in his 2.5 seasons as the starter of the Packers. He's prone to just making reckless decisions from time to time. Sometimes he'll make those throws that have you wondering, what the hell was he thinking? It's almost like he's emulating Brett Favre's style in some way of just, sometimes he'll make some really good throws, but then sometimes you'll look at his throws, you'll be like, what the hell was Jordan Love thinking? And that can be a big advantage for the Eagles. You get some pressure on Jordan Love, get to him like we got to Carson Wentz against the Vikings in Week 8 and Week 7. That can help us out too. We saw Week 7 when the Eagles brought the heat. Wentz was making reckless throws. He was trying to play hero ball. He threw a pick 6 to Jalix Hunt. He had some other passes. He was underthrowing guys. Now, Jordan Love, the way this could play out similar is you get some pressure on Jordan Love. He might just throw a pass in the middle of double coverage in the middle of nowhere, and we might be able to pick him. So that's one way to get to him. You got Jalen Carter, who's the key big X factor for this Eagles pass rush. And now you're bringing Jalen Phillips into the mix, who's one of the best blitzers in the NFL. Maybe he's not the best at finishing and bringing down the quarterback, but when you already got Jalen Carter, Jalix Hunt, Jahad Campbell, Jordan Davis, guys who you know in some way, shape, or form can make plays on the field, then now on top of that, now you're bringing in Jalen Phillips, one of the best pass rushers in the NFL currently. Oh, that can be a QB nightmare right there. And with Phillips, he's now had a full week to practice with the team, to build some chemistry with his teammates. And he's also familiar with Vic Fangio. So that gives him advantages that most players might not have going into the first game with a new team. Now, is it possible with Jalen Phillips there might not be perfect? It's certainly possible. This is only his first game as a Philadelphia Eagle. But like I said, even if there might be one or two plays where the chemistry is a little off with him and his teammates, I'm sure there'll be at least 3 or 4 other plays where he'll be on point, making his, matching his cues as well. So I'm sure there'll be more good plays than bad plays that could make up for maybe 1 or 2 plays where they're not quite all the way there yet, chemistry-wise. I'm not worried about that. And like I said, you got all those guys that can bring pass rush. And knowing Jordan Love's history of folding when you bring that pressure, just do it. Bring that heat. Make him feel it. Force him to make those reckless throws under pressure. We saw last year what he did that when Quinyon Mitchell got his first career pick in the wild card round last year when we played him at home. Could probably do something similar. Could help out. So I'm not really that concerned. And plus with the Packers, they're a little short on offense too, because they just lost their tight end for the season last year. What's his name again? Oh, I'm trying to remember his name, but you guys probably know who I'm talking about, right? If you guys remember his name, you can put it in the comment section. Probably just need a second for it to come back. Hey, but they lost their tight end for the season in a big loss right there. So I don't know that. Now you still got Romeo Dobbs is going to be playing. Got Matthew Golden, who's been their biggest threat in the offense. He'll be playing. But at the same time, as we saw last week, if Jordan Love can't get him the ball effectively, what differences can Matthew Golden make? So that goes back to the pass rush. If we bring heat on Jordan Love, get a few sacks, force him to make some bad throws, he's not going to be able to get the ball off to Golden efficiently. Now, the biggest concern on offense for me, with that being said, is Josh Jacobs, who is one of the best running backs in the NFL currently. And as we did see last year, you see that with DeGene in the Super Bowl. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he picked Mahomes and took it back to the house. Of course. And as I was saying, the one factor that does concern me is actually Josh Jacobs. Because now, granted, we have beaten them. We've beaten them twice with Jacobs anyway. But I'm saying he's the biggest factor for the team because Josh Jacobs has been. Oh, it's Tucker. That's right. Tucker Kraft is out for the season. That's his name. It just came back. So Tucker Kraft is out for the season. That's a big disadvantage for the Packers as far as matchups go. And then you get back. Josh Jacobs has been one of the most efficient players, especially last season we saw with Jacobs' first season there with them. I'm going to try to look at his stats on a separate. Because Josh Jacobs, even last week, he got 87 yards on the ground and he got a touchdown. So he was the main factor for them. He helped keep them in the game and give them a chance against the Panthers in that embarrassing performance. He also had 86 yards against the Cowboys. But Jacobs really hasn't had any big games this season, though. He's 141 carries so far. He's had 534 yards, averaging 3.8 a carry, which is down from last year's total of 4.4. So even then, Josh Jacobs, who is the biggest threat, who's closest to 100 yards this season, was 93 against the Bengals. 93 yards against the Cincinnati Bengals. That's right there. That's yeah, so think about that's obviously a sign of regression from Jacobs. So he's not even playing that great. But after the Eagles' performance against the run, against Scatterboo, there is a little bit of concern because that hasn't been their strong point of the season either. So even though Josh Jacobs hasn't had a big game yet, remember the Eagles' weakness so far has been stopping the run. So that's why I say this is the biggest challenge for him. Even though Jacobs hasn't had a great statistical game this season on the ground, we know, remember, week 1, Javonte Williams had himself a pretty good first half when he got the ball against the Eagles week 1. And even Miles Sanders, now that before the fumble, remember, Miles Sanders had that one big run against us to get the Cowboys in territory. We all thought, oh, shit, they're going to score. And then Miles Sanders fumbled. So we had our struggles there. Remember, against the Giants, the first go-around, Scatterboo had himself an impressive performance against us. And that seemed that was going to be his breakout game. Unfortunately, we know what happened in week 8, which I'm not going to talk about right now. But the main point I'm getting at, though, is the Eagles' ground game hasn't been the most efficient this season. Even against the Broncos, we kind of struggled. We wear the Brazil jersey today. You mean the Brazil jersey? You mean the same jerseys we wore in Brazil? And I'm thinking that's what he meant by the comment that we're going to be wearing the same jerseys we wore in Brazil, But as I was saying, though, yeah, Eagles against the ground game hasn't been. This is going to be a test here against Josh Jacobs because you got that. And plus, you got to remember, this also ties not into just tonight's game, but next week as well. You got to go against the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football. And you know who's waiting you there? Jamar Gibbs. And not only Jamar Gibbs, but that that Lions potent passing game is going to be waiting you as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown and company are going to be waiting for you. So watch out there on that one. So that's going to be a big, so this could be a test for next week for this Eagles run defense, see what they can do and stop this Packers team. But I'm looking also to see how does Michael Carter fit in with this defense too. That's the big question as well, is I believe Michael Carter is an upgrade over Adoree Jackson and Kelee Ringo for sure after what we saw from them. Holy smokes, I'll take anybody over those guys. But remember, this is also Michael Carter's first game. It might take a game or two for him to adjust, get used to playing in an Eagles uniform. So I'm curious how he's going to fit in tonight. That part I'm curious about. But ultimately, we just got to wait and see how that's going to play out. But we still got time. So we still got time on that one. But with that being said, though, man, I think we covered most of the main matchups now. Now it's time to switch gears a little bit, discuss some of the keys to victory. I kind of alluded on it, but we'll just kind of more of a quick touch up on this. Starting with the first key to victory, the pass rush. Got to be able to get some pressure on Jordan Love. Like I said, especially with Jalen Phillips being mixed, you got Jalen Carter, Jalen Phillips, Jordan Davis, Zach Bond. It's going to be tough. You got to pick someone to double team. If you're the Packers, you got to pick someone to double team out of that bunch. Who's it going to be? Kind of tough to pick someone there. You got to pick who we're going to double team. We're going to double team this person, this person, this person, this person. Yeah, I mean, because even if you double team one person on that offensive line, you're going to leave somebody else open to make some room. So if you can bring the heat, get a few sacks, force Jordan Love to get rid of the ball quickly, that certainly can minimize the Packers' offensive efficiency. So that's the number one key to victory right there. Number two big key to victory is don't commit any turnovers. We've been doing excellent with that, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Just go out there, take care of business. Maintain control of the football. Don't give away ball with reckless turnovers. We've been doing good with that so far. So hopefully we should be able to keep that going. That's one of them keys to victory. The last main key to victory in this one is obviously to keep the momentum we've been building on offense going the past couple weeks. Keep scoring points. Let's keep those passing touchdowns going. We've been doing it efficiently, but also let's keep some of that momentum on the ground game going. We've seen it recent weeks. We've improved on the ground game a lot. We saw that. Let's keep that going. So those are my main keys to victory. Now, as far as scores go, score predictions, what I could potentially see how this matchup goes, I got the Eagles winning this matchup, improving to 7-2, moving on, getting ready for the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football in Week 11. I got us winning this game by a score of 30-13, I'll go with. Eagles should be able to outscore them. Packers offense has been one of their weak points. I mean, they might be able to move down the field, but as long as we're clicking on all cylinders, I don't see Jordan Love having a great game. So I see the Eagles getting the victory, taking care of business, getting it done. That's my main points here. We're going to talk about right here. Now, before I go, say this. X factors for this game. I'm going to say the big X factor for this one is how does Jalen Phillips fit in with this defense? How's he going to fit in now this first game? Knowing that it's Vic Fangio's, he's familiar with Fangio, I feel like he'll fit in well with them. But the point I'm getting at, that's going to be one of the X factors to winning this game tonight. In the offense, we kind of know what they can do. They just got to keep it going. And ultimately, we still just got to wait and see what happens ultimately. But I predict the Eagles going to get this win, move to 7-2, come out and proudly say, fly, Eagles, fly. Probably come back, talk about it. Maybe sometime tomorrow I might come on here, talk about it. And also Star Wars commented, A.J. Dillon. I don't think they're going to, we're real with you, I don't see them using A.J. Dillon that much. They're probably going to rely more on, as the number 2, Tank Bigsby. They already started moving in that direction with Bigsby. So I see them doing that again. But ultimately, we just got to wait and see how it plays out. They'll probably come back maybe tomorrow after the 3. I will talk about it, though, a little bit tomorrow on the 3-point blitz for sure. That's going live tomorrow, episode 34. I'm doing it at noon as the start time instead of 11:30. Because I notice usually around 12:30, that's when the view count increases. So that's when I'll be going live around noon to start this stream. Tomorrow, episode 34 of the 3-point blitz, where I'll be talking about the NFL, NBA, and part of that will be a recapping all the games, giving my thoughts. I'll provide some brief thoughts about the Eagles' performance against the Packers there. I might go live, do an impromptu stream maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday at the latest, where I'll give my thoughts on the Eagles and Packers. But we got to wait and see. But I'll definitely post it in the community tab when I'm going to do a post-game update. But yeah, so why don't we I'm just ultimately going to wait and see what happens. Got about an hour to kick off. Maybe I'll just kick it with you guys for a little bit. Have some fun on this stream before I go off. Maybe plug what's coming up. First 1 minute, I guess grab a sip of water. I'll be right back, guys. All right, still got some time going before we start this one right here. All right, so we still got some time, folks, before we get this thing going. So you're hoping we get a few more people in the chat, maybe. Because I was going to ask the chat to get involved in the conversation a little bit. Ask the chat a few questions, what you guys think. Do you have any predictions or hot takes for this game? But all right, we'll give it another minute too. Maybe some more people will come back into the chat. And I just want to ask, because I want to ask them what their hot takes are on this game. While we're waiting for that, I'll provide you one of my hot takes, folks. For me, one of my hot takes is I got in this one, I'm going to say Jalen Phillips is going to go off, have himself a great first game as an Eagle, and help lead us to victory in this one. And for my hot take is for but it's crazy, man. So far if the Eagles win this one, think about it. This will be the third straight week that the Eagles, because last week all three teams, the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Commanders all lost their game. This week, 2 weeks ago, we beat the Giants, and then the Commanders and Cowboys lost because the Cowboys lost to the Broncos 2 weeks ago in Week 8. And who did Washington lost to Kansas City, and we beat the Giants. So this could potentially be the third straight week. Eagles are the only team in the NFC East to win their game. But to be fair, the asterisk on that would be that the Cowboys aren't playing this week. They're on their bye. So if that happens, it won't be because of the Phil. It won't be because all three teams play. But either way, it's crazy. I mean, we're at a point where all we got to do is just win, and we control our own destiny in the NFC East. So that's something else to consider. And you also look at the standings right now. Right now, we're the only team. We're still in first place. And at this point, it's first place in the conference is on the line in this matchup. Whoever wins this game is in first place. I'm going to look at the conference standings real quick, and I'll talk about them. So give me 1 second. I'm going to look at what's the conference standings for the NFC. Oh, wait, let's check. Right now, actually, let's see. It's right now, if we win this game, we go to 7-2. We're tied with the Seahawks and Rams for first place in the conference. No, technically, as of now, it would be a three-way tiebreaker. Although technically it would be us and the Seahawks. So the Seahawks are technically in first by default, but we got to wait and see how that plays out. And also, there's another point got to mention. In this one, we got the return of Brandon Graham. That's right, folks. BG is back, baby. Now, I don't know. Now, we'll see how he does this go around. Remember, it's been a while since Brandon Graham's been retired. He decided to unretire, come back and play, but he's been gone for a while. His first game back, we would have to see how Brandon Graham fares in this one. But considering the amount of depth we have on this team, it is crazy, this defense. Like I said, there's so much depth on this team. We should be able to click on all cylinders and be able to take care of business, win this game. And really, there's really no reason we should lose this game when you look at no good reason when you look at the amount of talent we have on defense, because it's insane right now. Between all the young, Jalen Hunt, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Zach Bond. You got, obviously Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Brandon Graham back in the fold. Jalen Phillips. It's insane. Michael Carter III, who he's had his injuries, but to be fair, when he plays, he's impressed. It's absolutely insane. What I expect out of Saquon, I said this earlier and I will reiterate. I expect Saquon maybe to have around somewhere rushing wise 60 to 70 yards. And ultimately, so I expect him to have maybe somewhere around there on the ground. And ultimately, I don't think so. Like I said, I'll have a solid game in this one if all things play out. So that's what my expectations are in this one. And it's interesting, like I said, we control our own destiny with this game. Oh, especially now, the only teams that, as far as like home field advantage, well, right now it's too early to talk home field advantage. It's still November 10th. We're not even wait till we get to the holiday season around Christmas time. Then we'll talk about home field advantage. A win will help, certainly. We're 7-2, because then really, it's between us, Rams, Seahawks, all the same record. And with the Rams, one of those two losses was against Taquan. I don't know. He's not going to play tonight, though. Let's just see what happens tonight. Let's just see what happens tonight first. See how this team looks. See if we need him or not. Because we've already made a bunch of moves. We brought in some new guys before the trade deadline. Let's wait and see. Let's get those guys in the acclimate. Give those guys the experience. See how they do. We'll see what happens. But we look at this, another thing I alluded to, it helps. Packers are down on both sides of the ball. They're down. The Packers are down a tight end, and they're also down Jair Alexander on D. No, not Jair Alexander. They're down Tucker Kraft. And they're down, what's his face? Who wasn't on the defensive line? Who's officially on the injury report? It's not Glover. I forget his name. Fuck. What is it right now? Matthew Golden is... Well, hold on. Let's see. So actually right now, let's see. So for the Packers, Matthew Golden's out tonight. So, all right, now's the perfect chance to take a look. So Packers are out. Matthew Golden, he won't be there tonight. So Romeo Doubs is going to have to be their lead guy. You got Tucker Kraft on IR. On defense, you got Nate Hobbs is out. Xavier McKinney is playing. But you got on offense, you're down two main guys of the Packers. Down Matthew Golden and down Tucker Kraft. There's a big one right there. So now the Packers are down two of their main guys on the offense. And then for us, we're pretty much healthy, folks. Let's take a look. I mean, although Brett Toth will have to take spot because Cam Jurgens is out. But outside of that, we're healthy. You still got Lane. You still got Tyler Steen, Dickerson, Mulata. They're all playing. On the defensive side of the ball, we're mostly healthy in this one. You still got Quinyon Mitchell, Makuba, Blankenship. You still got those guys. You still got Jalix Hunt's playing, but I'm looking for Michael Carter, he's on there. He might play tonight. And Jalen Phillips, he's already going to insert it in the starting lineup on the depth chart. So we will be seeing Jalen Phillips tonight for sure. He's on that depth chart. Although A.J. Dillon's out, actually. Because I know Star Wars 99 commented earlier. Actually, J.J. Dillon is out. So coach's decision, it will be inactive for this game. So it will be Saquon and Tank Bigsby in this one. So there's the official injury report for it. So, yeah, Packers are down two of their main guys on offense. Down their tight end and down the rookie wide receiver. So that opens up even more opportunities for us on the defensive side of the ball. And we're mostly healthy for the most part. Although Brett Toth having to fill in, for Cam Jurgens, we're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. Now, one thing I'll confidently say is we should be good in short yardage situations. Yeah, I'm not worried about short yardage situations in this case. So I'm content with us being able to make some plays and stop them in short yardage situations. So I'm content with that one right there. But ultimately now, and while we're still here at the chat, I want to ask you guys in the chat, what is your hot take for tonight's game? Or what's your score predictions while you're still here? Star Wars, if you're still in the chat, feel free to drop yours in the comments. Let me know what you think. What's your hot take or your score prediction for this one? So, yeah, with that, so we're still here. Just a quick friendly reminder, like I already said, tomorrow at noon, I'm going live on my channel and the Hardcore Sports Network, episode 34, the 3-Point Blitz. We'll recap all the NFL games for Week 10. Also, as well, going to talk about, not just talk about that, but we're also going to talk about the NBA a little bit, talk about the early regular season, some of the teams who've been impressive thus far. So we're going to have a lot to talk about tomorrow. I'm going to have a lot of theory on the 3-Point Blitz. That's going to be at noon Eastern Standard Time. This is more, for those of you that have been following that notice I usually start 11:30. This is just an experimental thing because I noticed on the 3-Point Blitz, usually around like 12:30, a lot of views start to roll, and that's usually toward the halfway point of the stream. So I'm experimenting with a half hour later start to see if that brings in more views. This may not be a weekly thing, but this may just be a 1 week thing. But for sure, the show itself will still follow the same format. So you catch me out tomorrow, 3-Point Blitz. We'll recap NFL Week 10. And then at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, exclusively on the Hardcore Sports Network, me, Agent Warrior X, will be live to do Week 11 of the NFL Pick'ems. We'll provide you some hot takes for the upcoming games for Week 11 and recap Week 10. So that will be on the agenda tomorrow, folks. Maybe even an impromptu live stream where I'll maybe recap the Eagles Packers. If not, maybe worst case scenario, I think about so Wednesday, I'll be going live. We'll recap the Eagles Packers game more in depth then. So that'll give me some time and to think about the game a little more in depth after watching it, so I can just take care of my other two streams. Then after that, then ultimately I'll go and then ultimately we'll come Wednesday, go live, talk about the Eagles. So that's that. So with that being said, man, I think we're going to wrap this thing up. Looks like I talked about everything I was going to talk about. Star Wars 99, Lil G Griffith, thank you for stopping by in the chat. We'll end the poll there. All I'm going to say is looking forward to tonight's game. It's Monday night. Get to sit back, watch the Eagles on Monday Night Football for the first time in a year. I get to enjoy the ride. We'll ultimately see what happens. Well, things for sure, no matter what, win or lose, you bet I'm going to be supporting the Eagles. I'll be back Wednesday to recap the game, give my thoughts about what happened. But either way, I'm going to be supporting the Birds. Always fly, Eagles fly, win, lose, or tie. And you best believe we're going to support them. So I'm going to round this thing out with a quick EAGLES, Eagles! Fly, Eagles, fly, baby. Let's get this win. Go to 7-2 if everything works out. And that's all I got for you for now. Have fun with the game, y'all. And I'll catch y'all tomorrow. 3-point blitz. Pick'ems on the network. Wednesday, we're going to recap the game. So with that being said, have a great night. Enjoy the game. Until next time, your boy Nicky Steez signing off. Fly, Eagles, fly.